Welcome back to another episode of the Inquisitive Mamba podcast. This is episode 34. For today's show, we have a guest joining us here in a little bit. His name is Raj C. He covers the Lakers. He's done some stuff for them via film. He has also been covering them this season, and he's got the rundown for the team so far this season. But before we get started and Raj joins us, I got a little bit of headlines for you guys from the past few days of sports. Lakers are on a 3-game win streak. Raj is going to talk all about that in a little bit here. But I got Kyrie comes back against the Pacers, drops 22, 9-17 from the field, 0-4 from three. Oh, I think so. And then 4-4 from the free throw line. So no rust from Kyrie. I guess I was wrong in the last episode because I did say Kyrie would be a little rusty, but clearly that wasn't the case. Maybe his first two shots he missed, but he went off. He had 22 points, and Kyrie's back for away games. Next thing, the Antonio Brown drama. He released a statement. Him and Arians were going back and forth at it over text. Westbrook's trade rumors. Antonio Brown ankle surgery coming up here. Some more stuff about him. Don't really want to get into all that, but another thing, Aaron Rodgers called out a reporter named Hub Arkush, one of the 50 media members who didn't vote for Rodgers for the MVP. Rodgers called him a bum, said, I've never heard of that guy before. Pretty interesting stuff there. Some juicy stuff from Twitter. I love to see that one. Derrick Henry is back. I don't know if he's going to play this week, but he did practice yesterday and today. So interesting stuff there with Derrick Henry. And also, quick note, Derrick Henry is 6th in rushing yards still, 937 yards in the season. So King Henry's a monster. He's an absolute monster. So that's it for that part. Cam Akers, NFL running back for the Rams. He is rehabbing, and he's going to be coming back very shortly. Supposedly this Sunday, he's going to be playing against the Niners. Not sure how much of a snap count he'll be getting. And that's it for him on the NFL. We got Lillard is still out for a week. He should be coming back shortly. They haven't missed him as of late because Anthony Simons has been balling out. I think that's it. That's what we got there so far. And Raj should be joining us here in about a minute or two. Antonio Brown drama, Westbrook trade rumors. We're going to get into that with Raj here in a little bit. But I think that's it for the headlines. Not much more to talk about. We got some games tonight. We got the four games. We got the Suns and the Clippers. We got Grizzlies and the Pistons. We got Celtics and Knicks, and we got Warriors and Pelicans. Maybe we'll try to get some updates on that here coming in. But Raj is joining us here, so we got to welcome.
Yo, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. How's it going?
Good. How are you, man?
Good, man. Thank you for coming on. I appreciate it.
Of course.
Yeah, I know.
Inquisitive Mamba, right? Is what it's called. Nice.
Yes, sir. So I know we got the time mixed up here this morning.
My bad.
No, it's okay. I always get those confused with the East and West Coast. Some people that I have come on, we go, okay, is it 10 o'clock? Is it 7 o'clock? But I know the time change difference, but it's just it's something that so I'm ready to talk Lakers. I don't know about you, but I'm super ready.
Of course, man. I'm always ready to talk Lakers. I talk Lakers pretty much every 3 days a week at least. So no, I'm ready, man. Always fun to talk Lakers, of course.
And I was looking at some of your retweets last night about from some Lakers stuff and where they're going to be heading. And supposedly DeAndre Jordan and Bazemore are going to be getting moved.
Right. Yeah. To me, like that came out as news. You know what I mean? And to me, that's not really breaking news. Like the Lakers want to move 2 players who don't play, like breaking news. I mean, front page of the Times. But yeah, I don't think that's big time news. But yeah, man, they're going to want to move those 2. Those 2 are not in the rotation. I would kind of like to see Bazemore get another shot. DeAndre Jordan just looks done. I mean, we've gone to no center lineups. Dwight Howard is barely playing here and there, so he looks done with the team. I would like to see Bazemore get another chance, but definitely want to open up another roster spot. Stanley Johnson has really showed out. And he got signed to a 10-day as well today. But yeah, man, those 2 look like they're out the door for sure.
But before we get started, because we're going to talk Lakers for a little bit here, but you got to introduce yourself. You got to tell the people who you are, what you're about, and a little bit of your background. So go ahead.
Sure, man. So my name is Raj. I just, I'm a huge lover of the Lakers. I fell in love with basketball my freshman year of high school. So I joined the basketball team, and one of the seniors was like, I wasn't really watching basketball at the time. He's like, just go home and go watch Kobe. And I went home and watched the first Laker game, and I fell in love. And since then, that was in 2007, so you can kind of age me there. But yeah, since then, man, I've been watching every game, and I made this basketball account in like 2017. Never thought it would grow. I'm not like famous or anything, but
Right.
I never thought it would grow to this level. And it's just been fun, man, connecting with fans and be able to watch the game. And I try to watch every game twice. I just
Yeah.
like to learn. You'll see me in a bunch of different spaces because I just love to learn and kind of get knowledge from other fans as well. But yeah, man, I love basketball. I do some work at Lakers Outsiders. I put a bunch of video work out. I'll watch games at like 1 a.m., 2 a.m. and just post clips, and people will follow along and stuff. So it's been fun, man. I do video work on my Twitter at Unwritten Rules. You can kind of go follow there. But yeah, man, that's enough about me.
Yeah, no, so I actually found you from one of the Twitter spaces. I was driving home from
Mhm.
I think it was Sunday Night Football after I drove home after that Packers Vikings game, and I think I put on a Twitter space, and it was Lakers Timberwolves, and
Mhm.
I was listening to your guys' stuff, and I was like, I like this guy. He's got some cool stuff, and I requested to talk, but I mean, it was so many people in there, but I was super excited to get talking about the Lakers. So a guy that I want to talk about here is Malik Monk. He's been pretty
Mhm.
good as of late. In his last 5 games, he's been averaging 20 points. He's shooting 42% from three, and he's been kind of lights out. So when Anthony Davis comes back, are they going to keep him in the starting rotation, or do you think he goes to that traditional 6-man role?
Yeah, so he's definitely made a case for himself, right? And his chemistry with LeBron pretty much has been undeniable since the beginning of the season. He was out for a little bit, as a lot of players were with COVID protocols. I think we really missed his scoring, but those kind of guys fit beautifully. Those guys are, to me, are born to play with LeBron, and it's not exactly Kyrie Irving, but Kyrie's archetype, right? Kyrie's a three
Hmm.
level scorer. He's a guy that you have to guard off the dribble, off spot up, and at the rim. And that's kind of where Malik Monk kind of fits in as well. The only problem with Malik to me is defensively. He fights hard, he plays hard. He's just kind of small and he's short, right? He's a little skinny to play that position to start when the team is healthy, but he's going to play a lot, man. And I'm really interested. Him and AD, I played like 12, 13 games together, but they kind of coincided when LeBron was out as well. So we'll see when AD comes back. But AD's coming back to a whole new team, honestly. This team has switched his whole identity, and Malik Monk is definitely part of that. It's putting shooting, playmaking around LeBron at center, and he's definitely thrived in that. His game kind of accentuates with this type of play, right? He's a small guard. Last night, our late game offense was people thought that it would be LeBron Russ late game. Last night, our late game offense was LeBron and Malik Monk 2-man game every single time down the floor. And that's how they beat the Kings. And that's a staple of LeBron James. Like that's what he's done his whole career. He loves being next to these scoring type of guards who can screen for him. And Malik's going to be a big part of this team. He's stepped up. He's starting to feel comfortable, right? And to get him for the minimum is just a ridiculous kind of value as well to get a player of his archetype. So yeah, I mean, he's been great. We'll see if he starts when the team's healthy. I still think they probably go with a little bigger player. We'll see when Kendrick Nunn comes back. He'll have a say in this as well. But Malik's been great. I see him more in that 6-man though, for sure.
Absolutely. And I saw Phil Handy put out an Instagram story with Kendrick Nunn, and he said reinforcements is on the way. And Kendrick Nunn's a guy that I've been, looking at all season to see, are they going to keep him? Because they've kind of been up and down this season, whether it's been 500 or, dip 2 games below 500. And now you're starting to see, well, they're really starting to kind of find their identity. I think it's going to take a little bit longer because there's just a lot of older guys and there's a mix of younger guys as well. But
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see, how Nunn comes back and he fits into the rotation now that they got rid of Rondo. Bazemore supposedly might be out the door. DeAndre Jordan, and now Stanley Johnson's another guy that they're probably going to be keeping for the rest of the season, right?
Yeah, no, so Kendrick Nunn is interesting. He played a couple preseason games, but even then, the team was filling themselves out. LeBron didn't play in a bunch of them. Anthony Davis played in a few of them. But he brings a skill set that no other guard on this team has. He has a mid-range game. He has a pull-up in the mid-range. He has a floater game. That's something that this team desperately needs, especially off the bounce. Malik Monk also isn't that type of player. Malik's more of a step back three, get to the basket, finish. Kendrick Nunn gives them that versatility there where he can come off screens with AD. He can screen and roll with LeBron. He's good in transition, and he's a little bigger as well. I think he's a better defender than Malik Monk. And this team is full of guys making the minimum. And there's only two other guys other than the stars, right? LeBron, Russ, and AD make the max, but your rest of your team is minimum. And two guys, Taylor Horton Tucker, who's struggled this season. He had a good game against Sacramento, but he's really struggled. He's been in his head. And Kendrick Nunn, that's the other guy who hasn't played a second of real basketball. So it's interesting to see if he'll play. But yeah, Stanley Johnson has just been a breath of fresh air. Big wings like that. The reason he hasn't been in the league, and the reason why, he's on this team is his offensive liabilities, right? But to me, like, we're seeing an influx of players who are offensive liabilities who can be, cogs of a successful team. You're seeing GP2 in Golden State is another example. Alex Caruso, to me, was the face of this for a couple of years for the Lakers as well, who just didn't have a big time offensive game, but is so good defensively. And I think Stanley Johnson, who was a high lottery pick, is kind of understanding his role now in the league. And a guy that size, that big, who just plays really hard for 15, 20 minutes. The team really needed it. We didn't have many wings. Austin Reeves as well just got back, but Stanley's made a huge impact. I'm glad they got him on the 10-day, but I think he'll eventually be a part of the full 15-man roster for sure.
I saw an interesting stat on Twitter. The Lakers are 15-5 when Austin Reeves plays. And he's only averaging like 6 points a game. But, another guy you said, Stanley Johnson, who actually came from Arizona with him as well, was Rondae Hollis Jefferson. He never got a chance with the Lakers, but kind of reminds me of him, not like their body type, but their defensive ability to guard the perimeter defenders. They're both pretty similar in that aspect. They haven't had the greatest NBA careers, but they could provide that, young kind of youngness that the a team like the Lakers or a veteran type team needs. And that's kind of what Stanley Johnson's brought for the Lakers so far, and it's still early. But I'm glad they got rid of Isaiah Thomas. He needed to head out. He was a defensive liability. I know he scored 10 15 points in the 3 or 4 games he was with the Lakers, but he needed to head on packing. He was just defensive liability, but they needed defense, and Stanley Johnson was a perfect I think addition to add for them. Kind of came out of nowhere too.
Yeah, for sure. And you talked about the youth, and this team, was called old, rightfully so. Their best player is 37. Russell Westbrook's 34. Carmelo Anthony, I think, is 37 as well. But now you look at the rotation. Austin Reeves is 23. Malik Monk is 23. Taylor Horton Tucker's 22. Stanley Johnson is 25. You're starting to see some youth there. And obviously Anthony Davis, 28. He's the leader of the younger guys on the team, obviously. But like, that's where you kind of see this youth picking up. And it's been nice that you can kind of fill those guys in those gaps. Trevor Ariza looked his age last night. He looked 34. We'll see if he kind of, if he can pick it up. I think he will as he gets in rhythm. It's been a tough season for him, out with injury, and then comes back for 2 games, out with COVID for 10 days. That's just really rough. So we'll see. But it's been nice, man. Stanley Johnson definitely came out of nowhere. You brought up, Rondae Hollis Jefferson. Both of those guys came into a different league than it is now, because they're both small ball 5s now. Stanley Johnson was drafted as like a 3-2. Rondae Hollis Jefferson was like a 3-4. Now both of those guys, Rondae, will see, but they're small ball 5s to me now in this new NBA. So it'll be interesting to see if he kind of gets another chance here. But yeah, man, I think Stanley's been great. Him, Reeves, and Ariza. It's a nice wing combination to at least help when LeBron's at center, which is what we're gonna be at least for another 2 weeks until Anthony Davis gets back.
It's funny you said that, because I know we talked about Bazemore a little earlier in the show, but I actually liked him when he played for the Lakers when he first started this season. He's proven himself in Golden State. He was a solid bench player. He's a pretty good perimeter defender. He's not that bad. He's a little older, but he can shoot the 3 every once in a while. He's not the guy you want to start, but he's a good, solid, I think, 9th, 10th guy off the bench for sure.
Yeah. You're talking about Ken Bazemore, right?
Yeah, I'm talking about Bazemore.
Yeah. So Bazemore, it's interesting because I kind of feel bad for him because all his minutes were next to DeAndre Jordan, right? So it was basically Russ. It was basically Russ, Bazemore, Braun, and then DJ, right, next to AD. And in those lineups, Kent Bazemore is the shooter, right? And Kent Bazemore isn't like a knockdown shooter, but when he's relied upon to be your sole shooter, it's a little tough, and his game's a little chaotic, right? And when you pair that with Russ, who's another chaotic player, it just doesn't work well, right? That's why, like, you kind of need some yin and yang in there, which is why I like Wayne Ellington. It's why, even though Avery Bradley is probably not as good a player as Kent Bazemore from, just from a skill set level, he just fits because Avery Bradley is very floored, right? He has a very adult game. You know what I mean? It's just very slow. He knows exactly who it is. Kane Bazemore is a little chaotic. It's a, experience every time in transition. And sometimes those players are needed, like the jolt of energy. And that's why I said I'd like to see him get another shot where it's not next to DeAndre Jordan. It's next to LeBron at center, and he can kind of run the wing and stuff. But we'll see if he gets another shot there. He's going to be a trade piece for them. I think he's a guy who's valued along the league, like around the league, than
Yeah.
a guy like DJ or even Rondo who was more like of a a salary filler in trade. So we'll see. But yeah, I would like to see Bazemore get another chance, man. He was the starter for the season, and I think he's just been put in some tough situations.
So okay, so here, take this one here. DeAndre Jordan gets moved to say they get rid of him, and DeMarcus Cousins comes back. What do you think of that?
I love DeMarcus Cousins. I think it's disappointing that he didn't get a continuation with the Bucks because I thought he's actually played well.
I thought so too. Yeah.
The issue though, I mean, for me, DeMarcus Cousins, the issue's always been to me is that defensively, like I think his offensive game is there. I think he still has the post ups. He's still scoring.
Yeah.
Just those kind of guys get picked on in the playoffs, and even in those Warrior teams, like those GOAT Warrior teams where it was like KD, Steph, it's still hard to play DeMarcus Cousins. That's just defensively he gets picked on. His pick and roll defense is slow. He's a drop coverage big in a league where they're shooting all around. I mean, it's just tough to play him. Plus, with our switch in identity, he just doesn't fit. We're going small ball, fast running bigs, and that's just not who DeMarcus Cousins is. He's not a high flying big. He's not a pick and roll big who can catch lobs. He's a post up center. You know what I mean? Who can space the floor a little bit. I'm not sure what he's shooting from three, but he's like a spacing floor post up big, right? And that just doesn't fit this team. And he was on the team before. He was unsigned with the regulars to begin this season. So if the Lakers wanted him, they could have got him, which I think kind of shows you where they're at with them. But I think they're going centerless, and DeMarcus Cousins doesn't really fit. To me, DeAndre Jordan will be cut and will get like a wing in that place. I don't think they're going to go for another center in that situation.
Now, do you think DeAndre Jordan has the chance of still being on an NBA team, or do you think this is it for him?
I mean, his contract is guaranteed, so it's not like he has a non-guaranteed deal. We'll see. It's tough to kind of see. It's clear the film was there. I was one that was a little higher on them. Nets fans were like, DeAndre Jordan's done, and I thought he could be some kind of like.
I think a lot of Lakers fans did. I think you're right. Most Lakers fans thought he was going to provide, something.
I thought he could be similar to what JaVale did, right? And JaVale has a higher motor, obviously. And I think that's DeAndre Jordan's biggest issue there. DeAndre Jordan will always go to the path of least resistance, right? So no matter what play it is, he's going to the path of least resistance. If his man is in the paint, he's just going to stay there. No matter what the action is, no matter what the action calls for, he's going to stay in the paint. And it's so interesting to me because on media day, The Athletic released an article, and they said the starting lineup was going to be Russ, Wayne Ellington, Trevor Ariza, LeBron, and Anthony Davis, right? And then Trevor Ariza got hurt. So that's like an inflection. That's like an inflection point to me because when Ariza got hurt, they switched to a whole new identity. They started DeAndre Jordan every game. Now we'll never know. We can't go back in time and actually find out. But that's really fascinating to me because this team is, I think, a game over 500 now. But I mean, it's hard to even take the record into instance because the team is so different. Two starters don't even play anymore. This team is totally different than it was to start the season. So it's just, but yeah, DeAndre Jordan, we'll see. I think some team would pick him up. He's been in the league long enough to where that experience, is valued around the league. Like those kind of guys just continue to hop around for a couple more years. It's not like he can't play. It's just he chooses to hold himself back. And that makes sense. A high flying center that can't really jump like that anymore. It's going to lose, skills in the league, but I think he'll probably end up on some team. I just don't think he'll finish the year on ours for sure.
I think so too. I just don't, as from what I've seen as of late, from even before they talked about trading him, just kind of things start to mill around on Twitter and social media and even online when you see like, oh, this guy's not fitting well. And then all of a sudden you start to see like, oh, trade rumors. So my next guy that I want to bring up to you is Russell Westbrook. He's been, the same Russell Westbrook everyone's known for most of his career. He does turn the ball over a lot. He's, kind of a cocky guy when he goes to the microphone. That's just the kind of guy he is when he goes to he's a press conference. He's just a bulldog, in my opinion. He's just a spitfire type guy. But yeah, what do you think of him so far? Do you think the Lakers will, because I've seen that they've tried to move him, and that's one thing that I'm kind of circling my head around. I don't think they will, but maybe if the right package was there, I could totally see it.
So I can't. So Russell Westbrook to me is gonna finish the season with the Lakers. Like he just is. He's not going anywhere. Like
Right.
I know I've heard the trades and I've heard that they'll listen. Those reports are really tough to me because you never know. Someone can call and offer something and hang up. Like you never know. It's just I don't think they're exploring
Right.
Russell Westbrook's deals. They just traded 5-for-1 for Russell Westbrook or four. I can't
Oof.
remember. And four,
Yeah.
four high level role players. You know what I mean? Like they're high level role players that they moved for Russell Westbrook. You're not gonna get a deal that gets you anything back. That's gonna help you win this year with that.
No.
Russell Westbrook makes $44 million, which I believe leads the
Phew.
league. But to me, like the contract is negligent because he's on the team now. The
Yeah.
like after every bad Russ game, people bring up, oh, how could he play like that? He makes $44 million. He got that contract in like 2017. After his MVP year. So judging
Yeah.
him on that is tough for me. I think the most important thing for Russ is us realizing like what he is, right, and what he isn't. He is not a give the ball to him and run a ball screen action and that's going to get you efficient offense. It's just not going to. The turnovers are going to be there. And I think the worry a lot is high leverage situations, right? It's late game offense. But I've been preaching that, in the late game offense, he's not going to have the basketball. Last night, we stuck him in the dunker spot. We stuck Russell Westbrook, our, second best player. We told him, go stand near the rim and wait for the action to come to you because that's who he is right now. What he still is a really good transition player. He still can attack the basket. He gets to the rim at a frequency higher than most people in the league. That's why the missed layups, they're annoying. They're plastered everywhere. The missed dunks are plastered everywhere. And to me, the missed dunks are like him facing mortality. He's just a guy that's, dunked all his career. Like that's just who he is. But to me, like the missed layups and stuff like that, he's getting to the rim and that stuff we have to kind of build around. I think LeBron at center lineups is a big part because of Russell Westbrook. We stuck him next to DeAndre Jordan for 20 games. And that's like putting him in a phone booth. You know what I mean? You put Russell Westbrook in a phone booth, you're going to get horrible results. And I thought that's what we got. I think the Russ 80 Braun fit is still something we have to work on. They're like plus 11 net rating for the season, but
Yeah.
it's only in like 14 games. So that's something you want to build on. But Russell Westbrook, like he's a star in like name, but like on the court, he is a super high level role player to me. Like that's what Russell
Yeah.
Westbrook is. And that's how they have to kind of match lineups around him. And I think we're starting to see that, putting him next to Malik Monk, who's another ball handler, right? So Russ isn't the only guy in lineups without LeBron James. You put Russ next to like all 5-out lineup where he can just attack the rim relentlessly. And now teams have to put their center on LeBron. So it opens up driving lanes for us to get to the basket. Like that stuff. This season, I know it doesn't sound great, but like this season to me has turned into acquiescing around Russ. Like we are building around Russ. And when you have LeBron and AD, that sounds strange, but LeBron and AD are shapeshifters. They can become whoever they need to be. Russ is a solid object who's, he is what he is. So you need to build around that and put LeBron and AD around that instead of the other way around, which you usually do with superstars.
So another guy, Taylor Horton Tucker. Before I want to go back to Westbrook in a little bit, but Taylor Horton Tucker, he's only really out. He's averaging like 10 points per game this year. I think he's shooting exactly. He is shooting 22% from 3-pointers and he's shooting 39% from the field. So a guy they signed to, I think it's a $8 million deal a year. I think it was 4 years, 32 million. Is that correct? I'm pretty sure that's correct.
Yeah, I think it's 3 years, 30, but yeah.
Okay.
So he got 10 million a year.
Okay, so something around there, right? But he hasn't been that good this year. I know when he first came back off of, I think it was COVID protocols, he was averaging like his first few games, it was like between 15 to 18 points per game. Everyone was like, whoa,
Right.
THC's revitalized. And now he just looks like another role player. So what do you make of him so far this season? And I know he's been, receiving a lot of help from Avery Bradley on the defensive end. Seems like they've been coaching him while he's, late in game. I know in that Kings game, he was being coached late game. I saw that on Twitter. So what have you made of, Taylor Horton Tucker so far this season? And do you think he could get moved?
So he can definitely get moved. That's the guy that's probably brought up the most, right? And he's our really only trade piece. It's him and Kendrick Nunn. So any deal will probably involve both of them because just what he makes. He makes $10 million a year. The guy brought up a lot is Jeremy Grant. It takes two to tango, right? You need the Pistons to also want Taylor Horton Tucker, but he's probably our biggest trade piece. Last 3 games though, he's come off the bench, and I've really liked that. I think putting him next to Russ and LeBron is just really tough because Taylor Horton-Tucker needs the ball in his hands, and he's on a team with two other guys who need the ball in their hands. So when you just
Right.
add the math up, right, like there's only so much, cake to go around. So once LeBron has the ball, Russ has the ball, and then Taylor gets a few possessions, he needs to have the ball to get a feel. You could tell like a lot of possessions, the ball will swing around and it'll go to him and he'll just stop the whole possession. He'll be like, oh, it's my turn now. So he'll just back up and try to run something and just kill the flow of the offense. And you'll see that a lot. It's so crazy because it's such a stark difference between like Austin Reeves, right? And we haven't really got too much into him, but Austin Reeves knows exactly who he is, right? He's a 4-year college player. He's undrafted. He's 24. He's like, to make it in the league, I'm gonna be a 3-and-D, glue guy.
Yeah.
Taylor Horton-Tucker still believes he can be LeBron James. Like that's the issue with THT. I'm not saying he shouldn't push for the stars,
Of course. Yeah, absolutely.
Not to put a ceiling on him, but when you have a team with title aspirations, you need role players more than because you already have two guys who do his job at a way better level. And Taylor Horton-Tucker, he's also become he just can't shoot right now. And it's an issue. His numbers right now are of like the worst shooter in the league, and that's not who he is. It's a mental thing for him. For me, I think his jumper's a lot better than he showed, but he wants to get to the basket, and that's tough for just a team that he's around. I think we need to put him in better lineups as well, but he's been in his head, man. He's a 22-year-old kid who obviously was handed the world. Like they, invested in him, and he plays like that. You could tell the pressure on him. He feels like he has to average some 10, 12 points a game, when in reality, he just needs to play really good defense and try to attack closeouts and stuff like that. So he's had a really tough season. There's no sugarcoating that. He's young, and I think he'll get better as the season goes. But his minutes are definitely in jeopardy. Kendrick Nunn coming back, Malik Monk, all those guys. Avery Bradley doesn't look like he's going anywhere. So it's interesting to see. But he's a young kid. I think he'll figure it out.
It's crazy to think that the Lakers, how much their team has been revamped in the past few years, and every single year it just seems like a new team. And now it looks totally different from when LeBron first got there, and it is. But it's just crazy to think that like, what's life going to be like after LeBron for the Lakers? I mean, they're that team like the Yankees or the Knicks or the Cowboys, where they have so much money, they can really get who they want, but it could be a crazy real rebuild for them afterwards. I don't want to get into that, but I'm just saying, like, what's life going to be like after LeBron? It's like eternity.
Right. Yeah. And LeBron's been so good. Like, it's tough to kind of even look at that conversation, right? Because if LeBron's numbers were dipping or anything like that, and his birthday, he just turned 37.
Yeah.
Doesn't look like he's slowing down. The thing though, like, right, like after LeBron to me is Anthony Davis. Like, that's your starting point. Like, the AD needs to be, he doesn't have to be the number one, but he has to at least be like 1A, right? And that's where you can kind of recruit and bring more players. But yeah, that's so far ahead. We are in title contention mode right now. Like, it's tough to kind of look past that. Definitely, any team that's going to lose LeBron, I don't care what year it was, if it's 2007 or if it's 2022, you're going to take a step back, right? That's just how good he is. That's what happens when you lose one of the best players of all time, who's been your number one for a while. But yeah, it'll be interesting. I think the Lakers can figure it out. I think their scouting department is killer.
Yeah.
You saw them just pick up Austin Reeves this year. I think they have a bunch of players filtered around the league. Lonzo Ball is a guy that I love that we moved for AD, obviously, but Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, like, those are guys I'm high on. The
Jordan
scouting
Clarkson.
department, Jordan Clarkson as well, Larry Nance Jr. in Portland, like all these guys. Vicha Zubac, which probably hurts the most for me because that was a really rough one.
I don't know what they were thinking on that one, but yeah, no, I completely agree with you. So, okay, another guy that could be linked to the Lakers as of late, Buddy Hield.
Yeah, I feel like that ship has left the dock. Like that ship was
so?
there. That ship has left like the station to me. I don't know. Like, it would have to be for Taylor Horton-Tucker, but I mean, I feel like they had a better deal this summer. Buddy Hield's such an interesting thing to me because I mean, he killed it last night as well, and he's a ridiculous shooter. But I mean, he doesn't even start on his own team. You know what I mean? Like, it's very interesting. Yeah, it's very interesting. And look, Fox and Halliburton. I think highly of Halliburton. I think Fox is an interesting player. I'm not sure if Fox is on a winning
should be
team.
starting.
The problem is defensively, Hield is a guy who gets picked on. So if you look last night, Hield is a guy that, guys actively look to screen for to attack. And if he's not hitting jumpers, then he's not really impactful, right? Like, it's just, and shooting is such a coveted skill in this league, but it's just that when you're only a shooter, it's tough. But Buddy Hield's he's one of the best shooters of all time. Like, it's just what his numbers bear
Yeah.
out. It's interesting though. He makes like 19 million a year, I think. So it could be done. I just think that ship has likely passed. If they can get Buddy Hield, that'd be amazing. I just don't see it for this team. I think the Kings definitely want to move him. Like, I think that's something they want to do, but we'll see, man. I just think that ship has lifted station, in my opinion.
Jeannie Buss and Anthony Davis were talking to him before and after game, though. Do you buy into any of those like scenarios or hype situations? Because I know, you sometimes you'll see things on social media and we go, oh my gosh, that person the Lakers confirmed. Like, Lonzo Ball and LeBron, when Lonzo was on the Lakers and LeBron was on the Cavs, and they had that mid-court, meeting like this. It's like, do you really buy into those? And I don't believe it until I really see it.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. LeBron is friendly with a lot of players, you know what I mean?
Right.
And Buddy Hield knows where he is. Like, Buddy Hield knows where he was playing last night. He
Yeah.
has a phone, he has a phone. He read the rumors over the summer. I mean, he always, picks it up against the Lakers, but I don't really buy too much into that, in my opinion. Like, that's tough to kind of play. Like, LeBron came out the other day and said he was looking at Malik Monk last summer, right? Like, I mean, last season, he was like seeing Malik Monk on the Hornets
Yeah.
and was asking Jason Kidd, how can we get him? But there were no rumors to that. There was no LeBron, Malik Monk covering their mouth, talking after a game. None of that happened, So that's just like you never really know. The clutch ties, I think, are there. Buddy Hield's not clutch, but I mean, like, there's clutch ties all around the league. You can kind of connect that. But yeah, it's tough for me to like see like a post game conversation and think that directly lead. Like, he had one with Jeremy Grant after the playoffs, and I thought that was kind of interesting as well. But Jeremy Grant went to he went to Detroit, so it's interesting.
And he's a guy that could definitely be moved, but the
Yeah.
Lakers would they rather have him or Buddy Hield? I think
they'd rather have Jeremy Grant for sure.
I think they're going to get somebody at the deadline. I just don't know who, but I think they're going to get somebody. And they also said that they were potentially looking into another veteran type guy, but I don't know who that could be.
Yeah, like, to
There's
me,
not many left.
Well, to me, Jeremy Grant would be the perfect fit. He just slides right in. He fits the identity, big power wing who can play small forward, power forward. He would be amazing. If you can get him for Taylor Horn-Tucker and Kendrick Nunn, then I feel like that's a deal you
and DeAndre Jordan.
And DeAndre Jordan, yeah, for salary filler. But yeah, man, Jeremy Grant would be great. But you're right. There's not too many. Harrison Barnes is another guy who's also on the Kings that
I talked about him.
Yeah.
I talked to him with my friend last week, and I don't know how you get him. I mean, maybe potentially. I just don't. Lakers don't have many pieces to move around. They've traded a lot. They got rid of a lot of their assets.
So they have a first round pick in 2027 that they can deal, which it's 5 years away, but those kind of picks are very valuable around the league. I wouldn't trade that one. I think THT and Nunn should be able to get you, enough to me to move the needle that you need to at the deadline.
So I already asked you what's the name that you would like to see the Lakers target. You said Jeremy Grant. Couple questions for you. Your favorite Laker of all time?
I mean, it's really easy to go Kobe. I mean, obviously most people go with Kobe, right? And that would be the guy that I kind of grew up to. But, probably my second favorite Lakers, probably Lamar Odom. Like, I thought Lamar was just a super fun player. And he's not as talented as Anthony Davis, right? But there are so many similarities to me between those two, just in terms of how they approach the game, how like they're very unselfish with their own kind of stuff. Anthony Davis is a guy that just tries to walk through games. He doesn't see himself as Anthony freaking Davis, right? Like, he had a quote last year where he's like, I was trying to fit around Dennis Schroeder. And we're like, you're Anthony Davis. You don't fit around Dennis Schroeder. Dennis Schroeder revolves around you. But Lamar was very much that way. Lamar had everything in his game, but he would like defer a lot. He came off the bench, for that title team. So Lamar and Kobe are probably up there for me.
Those are your okay. Do you think LeBron's jersey will be retired when he passes Kareem for the Lakers?
So the Lakers have a pretty much it's like an unwritten rule, like of unwritten rule is like the Lakers retire your jersey after you go into the Hall of Fame. So that's usually how they do it. Yeah.
Do you think they will?
They'll definitely retire LeBron's jersey. They won't do it. I mean, I think LeBron's gonna pass Kareem next year. So
he's 2,200 points away.
Something like that. Yeah, so if not next year, then the year after. Like I think he's definitely gonna pass it though sometime soon because just his pace that he's going at.
Right,
I
right.
so I think, but I think they're gonna wait. They usually wait until after a guy goes into the Hall of Fame. I think Kobe was probably an except. I think Kobe was close
Kobe was in sec.
exception to
Yeah.
that. But yeah, that's usually what they do. We'll see. But yeah, LeBron's definitely getting his number retired for sure by the Lakers.
So imagine that. So he's going to get his jersey retired by the Lakers and the Heat. Excuse me, and the Cavs.
Yeah, definitely. He
Wow,
will.
think that's crazy. And he'll be he's the first player. I think he's the first player to ever win a championship with 3 different teams.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
set the standard for this new league for sure.
yeah, exactly. Okay, will LeBron win another MVP before he retires?
Ooh, that's a good one. I feel like if the Lakers get up to the 3 seed, it starts to get interesting. At least this year.
They are the
I
sixth
think
seed.
I would bet on him getting one more. Like I would bet on him getting one more. It might not be this year, but I think he gets one more before it's all said and done. 4 MVP. He has 4 or 3 now. I
He's
don't
got
remember.
4. Yeah.
He's got 4. Okay,
Yep.
maybe not. Then four's probably a lot.
I know he
We'll see.
wants that 5th MVP bad.
Yeah, he wanted it bad for a while.
Yeah.
I thought it was close between him and Giannis in 2020. Like if the season doesn't
Yeah.
shut down, I think it's very interesting. Giannis won it off of all the advanced numbers. Like he had
Yep.
all the advanced numbers kind of pointed to Giannis. But I thought LeBron was just. You look at that season, LeBron was incredible. But I think he gets one more for sure.
Okay, next one. Do you think Frank Vogel will remain the Lakers coach for the rest of LeBron's career?
Ooh, that's interesting. I'm higher on Frank Vogel than most. Like a lot of people, were calling for his job, early on, and I said, like, this is a tough job, man. Frank Vogel won a title 15 months ago. Like, it's tough for me to like think, but
Yeah,
coaches come and go. It's
they
interesting.
do.
I would bet on him being the coach at least for the next 3 years. Like if LeBron is here and Frank Vogel's with him, like I would bet on Frank Vogel staying more than going. But coaching is such a tough thing, man. 2 bad years and you're let go. But hopefully I want Frank Vogel to stay because that means the team did well. You know what I mean? Like I'm gonna
Right.
root for that. So if the team kind of blunders or something like that, Frank Vogel will definitely be the first guy to go because that's just how the league works. Coaches are the first they're at the battlefront of any war, so they're the first to go. But I think Frank Vogel is more likely to stay than not.
Any chance the Lakers could land Damien Lillard before LeBron retires?
Oh man, that'd be interesting. I wouldn't kill it. So there were reports that they went to Dame this
Right.
offseason, and it's crazy. Dame is my favorite non-Laker. Like he's been my favorite
Yeah.
non-Laker for a while now. I absolutely love Damian Lillard. I think he's incredible. I think he can be a number 1 on a title team if you have the right 2 and 3. Like that's how highly I think of Dame. I just think that Portland team is gone, in the deep end now. They have no defense. They have a bad, defensive center. CJ McCollum's their second best player. They
I
switch
think he's going to get
coaches.
moved too.
I think they waited too long to move
I do
CJ,
too.
honestly. Yeah,
I
they
think at
probably waited
some
too long.
point he'll get moved. He might, maybe deadline. I don't know. The Ben Simmons stuff, I'm still waiting for that clown to play too. He's another one.
Exactly, yeah. So I think Dame definitely leaves Portland pretty soon. I don't know if it's to the Lakers, but I will say this. I think Dame will be able to pick his destination. You know what I mean? Like that's where I think this is going. I think Portland would let Dame at least pick his destination to an extent, right? They have to get stuff back and all that. But I think he gets to pick his destination. And you've seen it with the Lakers. Their roster has turned over. People were asking me, do you think Malik Monk will be on the team? Do you think the Lakers can keep Malik Monk? And I'm like, getting invested in any
I don't know.
player, well, like getting emotionally invested in any player not named LeBron and AD to me is just foolish. Like, look at the team the
Right.
last 3 years. It's flipped and flipped and flipped.
That's what
Even
I've
when
been
they won
saying. We
even they
won
won
a
a title.
championship.
They
Yeah.
won a title and flipped their starting 2 guard. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like it's very tough for me to answer that, but I think there's a chance for sure. I think Dame and LeBron have a very mutual kind of not just respect, but like understanding of each other's games. So for sure.
My biggest thing with Dame though is he's consistently came out and said, I don't want to be on a super team. If I wanted to go to another team, I would. He just seems like one of those guys where he wants to stay Portland faithful. But it almost like when you're in a relationship and like you're tired of that person, like enough is enough. Like I don't care about you as much as I did as I used to. Like the puppy love is done. That phase is over. Like we're not married, but we're never gonna get married. It's similar to that. Like he's just staying there. He's not doing anything. He's rotting away almost, you know?
Well, I mean, players can say that all they want. I mean, you can go look at James Harden's quotes from like 2015, 2016, you know what I mean? But like eventually losing gets to you.
Yeah.
Dame's not gonna sit there for a rebuild. So like that, he can say whatever he wants. They brought a new coach in. To me, the
Chauncey
coaching wasn't.
Billups.
Yeah, I don't think coaching was really the issue of that team. But whatever,
No.
they made a move. But that team has been the same. They've been running the same race for the last 5 years. They've been in the same position in the whole race. Like they've been playing the CJ Dame with Nurkic core, and filling some
Yeah.
wings around that.
Never been a
It
big
just
fan of
hasn't worked.
Nurkic.
Yeah, I think he's a fine offensive center. He's just slow. He's big footed. He can't move his feet. He's okay
Yeah.
at the rim. He's a post up big. Like it's just like it. They just don't have a playoff level offense, and now the regular
No.
season games have dipped because Dame started the year I think terrible.
Yeah,
But
he's still out another week. Talked about that in the headlines, and he's another guy. Nurkic is another guy where he's been hurt a lot too. So I don't know. I just feel like they're just going in circles. They need to break that whole band of brothers up that they so call themselves because McCollum's out right now. Lillard's out. They just need to break it up and go on with themselves.
Exactly. Yeah. And they've filtered wings along there. Robert Covington is the latest kind of guy they try to fill. And I like Larry Nance Jr. as well. It's just
Yeah.
that team is going nowhere. They're rudderless. If Dame isn't inferno every night, they have no chance. And that's what
No.
you're seeing. I think they lost again, tonight if I remember
Last night
correctly.
they
But
lost to the Heat. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, they lost to
okay.
the Heat. And Anthony Simons went for 43.
Oh
Oh no,
man.
excuse me, he went
Yeah.
for 28. He's been pretty good. Their backup point guard from IMG went straight to the NBA. But quickly, I know you were just saying a guy like Lillard, Harden, he had a similar situation to that, like where he wanted out. Ben Simmons now, I don't know what he's doing, but Karl Anthony Towns last year, he kind of was all upset. Jimmy Butler did the same thing. Kyrie, these guys, when they want out, they want out. So if Lillard really wants out, I'm sure he could just say, I'm done. And they would do the same thing, you know? So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is a new league. This contract
yep.
is nullable. It's like it doesn't even mean much. Ben Simmons has like 3 years left on his deal and just decided I'm done with the Sixers and is sitting out. So it's incredible where we're at. I think there's a breaking point at some point. Like we get to some kind of breaking line here where somebody steps over. And I think the Ben Simmons thing is fascinating to watch here. A player who's fully healthy, who has years left on his deal and just decided to punt the season, has just decided that he's done. And it's interesting to see, but I think Dame's a totally different situation. I think there's a respect there between the Blazers and Dame for what he's kind of stuck through, so he'll kind of get to pick where he goes next.
And he's still under contract too. Another guy though, if the Ben Simmons would be offered to the Lakers, just for hypothetically some in this trade deadline, do you think they would take it for Westbrook?
Ooh, that's so interesting. Man, I really don't even know how to answer that because it's so out of the realm for me because I don't see it happening. I think look, Dame's a better player than Russ. Like I
Oh, of
totally
course.
agree with.
Yeah.
I totally believe that. I just don't. I think that's a trade that you talk about in the summer. Like I just don't think Dame is getting moved, at the deadline, and Portland is not
Oh
taking
no,
Russ.
Ben Simmons.
Oh, Ben Simmons. I'm sorry. Oh,
Ben
for Russell
Simmons
Westbrook.
just like not straight up, but just like kind of like how they've done, or actually, like how they've done a sign and trade in the past, like they did with Durant
Mm,
and some other
okay.
guys. Do you think the Lakers would say, yes, we'll take Ben Simmons because he's younger? I mean, he's still got a hefty contract, but he is younger. What do you think of that?
I think if this is the off season, then that's definitely something that's discussed. Absolutely, that is definitely something that they consider, that they might even pull the trigger on. Honestly, but during the season, I just
You
don't
don't
see
think
it.
so?
Plus, I don't think Philly wants Russell Westbrook back.
I don't
You know
think
what
I
I mean?
don't
Like,
think anybody does. I'm sorry, but I don't think anybody besides
well,
the Lakers.
yeah, I mean Russ will, find his way around. Like Russell Westbrook is still Russell Westbrook.
Of
I
course.
think we have us fans have such a different view than people, in the front office. Like it's just like there's a separation there just in terms of how people view the game. He's definitely valued. LeBron obviously asked for him. LeBron and AD
He
obviously
did.
asked for him this summer, So I think he's still valued around the league more than people would think. But yeah, man, I think that's interesting. I think Ben Simmons is definitely something they would discuss. I also don't think Ben Simmons solves a lot of the issues that you
He
have when
can't
you have
shoot.
LeBron.
He's only made 5 threes in his career. So,
It's not just the shooting because I think that gets confused for people. Like Ben Simmons doesn't have to be a shooter. He has to be aggressive with what he is. Like it's
right.
okay. Like Ben Simmons can fit in his circle. He just has to be what he is in that circle, which is an aggressive transition player who can attack the basket, who's fearless at least when you don't have a jumper. And he's not that at all. He's shied away from big moments. He doesn't want to go to the free throw line. And he doesn't like the ball in his hands in late game situations. Philly
No.
puts him in the dunk. Like say what you want about Russell Westbrook. Like he's never gonna be like, don't pass me the ball. Like that's something you don't have to worry about. And I think that's a big deal for a lot of teams. And I think that's why you're seeing Ben Simmons not moved yet. There's no one giving up tangible stuff to Philly right now, and we're in a waiting game.
Okay, so to wrap this up here, a couple hot takes from you. Go ahead. From some NBA stuff that you think like
Ooh.
could see happen, or like stuff that you've just always thought of, like, oh, you're just you're thinking of stuff. You're like, okay, could this happen? Maybe a hot take, anything like that for the NBA this season so far.
I think Memphis is a lot better than people think. Like
Ooh,
to me, I think Memphis could make the conference finals. Like I think they're that good. Like
wow,
I got to see Memphis a couple times, but they play Lakers a few times as well.
they have
But their defense is legit. John Morant is no joke. Like
no.
people think, and John Morant's getting all the love right now because he's cute, right? He's like the new fun guy. No. John Morant is a killer. Like he's an absolute monster. There was no defense for John Morant. We had a game. I think he dropped like 38 or something on us in Staples, and I think AD also played that game. But it was just like late game. John Morant screen roll. I don't even think Jaren Jackson Jr. played that well, but he was just like, I'm getting to the rim at will. His jumper, I think, is getting better. I think Desmond Bane is a killer. I think 4-year college guys are underrated in the draft. Desmond Bane went 30th because he's 23 or 24. Desmond Bane is like a high lottery pick, in my opinion. Like he's that good. Jaren Jackson Jr. looks like the 2019 guy
Yeah.
that people thought he was going to be. I think
Yep.
that team's legit. They're deep. I love Tyus Jones off the bench. Like they're just good, and I think they're gonna surprise some people for sure. And another one, I think Phoenix is in the Warriors tier. Like, and I don't think people believe that. They have the same
I don't
record.
think a lot of people do. I don't think they
Yeah.
do.
I went to a
I don't know.
I hope I'm not going too long here, but like I went to
You're good. You're good. You're good.
I went to a Lakers Suns preseason game, right? I got to
Yeah.
sit up close. Chris Paul played that game like it was game 5 of the finals. Like, and that's the like mentality of the Suns. Like they are like they have a how do I explain this? They have a lower ceiling, but they have a super high floor to me, to where like
They just play
play
so well together as a team.
they execute
They
like no
execute
team.
so well, and their guys off the bench, they perform well too. Like JaVale McGee is so good for them off the bench, or he starts for them, but like he just plays so well with Chris Paul and Booker. And Booker's kind of like, he's still a 23 points per game guy, and he's still like, he's Booker. Like he knows his role somewhat, but Chris Paul is like kind of got him to like where he really needed to be. Because before he was Devin Booker, but he was just kind of just jacking up shots. Like he's gotten a little better, just like
Well, he's
playing
got
with other
talent.
people. Yeah, he's really
He's got
talented.
talent and good coaching. Monty
He
Williams
loves
has
playing
that
against the
team.
Lakers.
Oh man, and Monty Williams has that team running, and they have counters for everything. I think Aiton is getting better and better. I don't think people understand
He's
just
in
how
a
much of a
contract year.
monster. He's a contract year as well, but they have just a lot of actions that's tough to guard. Their main problem to me is shot creation in the playoffs, and I think the Warriors have a little issue of this as well. All that motion stuff kind of is tougher in the playoffs, but Phoenix is a little different to me. I think they have with Aiton just gives them another action, another counter, where if you switch it, Aiton. We played the Suns in the playoffs last year, and obviously LeBron and AD going down, gets the headline. People forget game 1, Bron and AD were healthy. That Suns team kicked our ass. Like they, because they're just really good. They do great counters. Chris Paul is hell, to like play for a full game. He does all these weird stuff, all these, antics that get annoying, but Chris Paul's still just incredible. Yeah, it was cool to see them up close though. Chris Paul was barking out orders. They were up like 25 in like the third quarter of a preseason game, and Chris Paul is still like screaming at guys to like get to different places on the floor. So I just think they have a mentality that's different, and I put them in the Warriors tier. Warriors are probably, edging them a little bit just with the star power of Steph, but those are my hot takes, man. I think Memphis is extremely good, and I think Phoenix is in that championship tier with Golden State.
How about the Chicago Bulls though? Last thing though, first in the East right now, 25-10, and the
Yeah,
Nets are second behind them. But man, the Bulls, they got good fast. But that's what happens. You get a guy like DeMar DeRozan, who the Lakers supposedly, I guess, we're going to get, and that kind of fell through. He was on a podcast and he said that it just
right.
kind of fell through. So, but the Bulls are good. They got Caruso, Lonzo, two Laker guys. I mean, they're solid, and they're good. They're really good.
To me, they have the one of the best defensive backcourts in the league. Like I think
Yeah.
they absolutely robbed Caruso and Lonzo. Like that, like that's a steal to me. They got Lonzo for Sanaratsky, I think. Like I think that's what they gave
Yeah.
up in that deal. And then obviously the other guy
And
from Charlotte.
they signed him too
Yes, and
to
then
the contract.
right. Well, it's a sign and trade. So New Orleans actually had the power. Lonzo was a restricted free agent.
Yeah.
They just traded him, right? It was a sign and trade. Lonzo went to Chicago. Devontae Graham went to New Orleans. I would have
Yep.
just kept Lonzo. I'm super high on Lonzo, and I'm a little biased, obviously, because he started his career in LA.
Lakers. Yeah.
Lonzo is such an unorthodox player because even his rookie year, he was having this type of impact. He just didn't have the numbers to go with it. So like he wasn't averaging 15 and 8 or something like he is now. He was like at 8 and like 4, but his impact was still there. If you're watching every Laker game, you could tell like, holy crap, this guy is impacting winning. It's just other fan bases aren't watching. So like, oh, how was the second pick averaging 8 points and 4 rebounds? Like, no, Alonzo was incredible his rookie year. He was good day one. He won MVP of the summer league without being able to dribble. Like, just think about
Yeah.
that from like, from
Yep.
like where the game is. He won MVP of the summer league without being able to dribble. So his impact has been there. Alex Caruso to me, top 3 defensive guard in the league. DeMar DeRozan has turned into just an absolute killer shot creator. Zach LaVine in the Devin Booker kind of. He was on a bad team when putting up bad numbers. Everything's kind of clicking. I think in the playoffs will be interesting. Having DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine as your main shot creators, like I think that's interesting in a playoff series. But they're good, man. They have a real defense. The Vucevic, I think, is a nice
Yeah.
player for them. So they're good.
It's not like football where it's like, the quarterback is the entire, in my opinion,
Yeah.
basically is the entire team, or you need an offensive line with like you need a solid type team. But NBA, you can do sign and trades, you can trade that guy and you can get a free agent. It's like it happens so fast. It's not like we're the NFL where you can have a great quarterback and he can be sitting behind a crappy O line and you'll never know if he's good or not, you know?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So
No.
but for the most part, I think that does it for us. I do want to say thank you for coming on. It was a pleasure. It was a lot of fun.
Of course, man. Anytime. I appreciate you having me, man.
Of course. And to wrap up, I want to say thank you to everyone tuning in. We're on Apple Podcasts, we're on Spotify. I want to say thank you to Anchor for allowing me to put my podcast on here. And thank you again, Raj C, for coming on. And we will see you next time.